Some if you have. This is called a catch box, and this is a microphone we're going to use so that our friends on Discord can hear your questions as well as Troy's answers. So the big thing about this is hold it way closer to your face than you think you need to, because it needs more space to pick it up. Second thing, we're going to lightly toss it. So if it's thrown at you, don't be afraid. It's very soft. So, for example, Scott, you have a question.
I'm non-technical, no, I'm not.
I haven't played sports since the 3rd grade.
Go sports ball.
I'm guessing you don't practice it.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah.
And then,
Yep.
real close to your face, just like that. Perfect. And then just throw it back. Good toss.
Great.
Right, so
All right.
I'm going to give this to Troy, and then we can get started.
The one-up box. Great. I'll set this over here for now. Like, I just called it the one-up box. You know, I think of like Super Mario, which I think is quite applicable for that. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Today and this evening, we'll be talking about practicing for the AWS Practitioner exam for AI, which is in beta. It will be in beta for a couple more weeks now, along with the official release of the AWS AI Practitioner certification exam will go public Q1 of 2025. So that's when you'll see it leave beta here in a few weeks. And again, what they're doing with the purposes of a beta exam is collect feedback, right? Feedback is a gift. Certainly AWS wants to grab and collect as much feedback as possible for that. But let's kick in a bit on who you're listening to, who's talking, who the heck am I? My name's Troy Dieter. I'm a principal of AWS at Proficient. We're a transformative and professional services organization that covers anything from migration modernization, large data and analytics, big data, along with Amazon Connect and generative AI. So cloud contact center, those things of the like. Industries that I serve: healthcare, financial services, life science, a little bit of automotive. I've been and consulted for tons of different organizations and industries over the years. My solution expertise is I'm a builder. Now my role at Proficient is a little bit more on the sales and pursuit life cycle. Still have a technical role as, protecting delivery, ensuring that our customers are getting what they need. Along with years of experience with data streaming, think of Amazon Kinesis, Kafka, those types of things within large retail. Community involvement: I've been AWS ambassador from 2020 to 2023. That was aligned with both my time at Proficient and Slalom. I'm a community builder, 5 years now, which is great. If you're not familiar with the AWS community builders, they're a pretty massive community at this point now, where we align by either technology sector or industry, and it's free to join. You provide some contributions throughout the years. Either blog posts, immersion days, things as, interacting with the community, just like how I'm doing right now. Can't say enough good things about the community builders, along with there's opportunities for a discounted pass for AWS reInvent and Reinforce if you're a community builder. So lots of cool things, parties that they throw. Certification subject matter expert, that was fun. I encourage everyone to do that. You essentially help to write and contribute to the AWS certification program. For me, I was doing the foundational, so my claim to fame is that there was one question that showed up on the AWS practitioner exam. I can't tell you which one it was, but one that we worked on pretty extensively as part of the certification program. And Detroit, Michigan AWS User Group founder, which didn't really take off too much. That's why I'm happy to be here in front of the Michigan AWS User Group, that you can find us over at awsuser.group. But regardless of that, some fun over the years, certainly some years in consulting back in 2016, 2015. Me and Jeff Barr, Trevor Spears, Darko, some good folks from the AWS community. Again, keeping your network strong and keeping those friends close, I think is certainly important. So we'll kick it off with some stats. For AWS being a data-driven organization, I think data drives everything. We know that about 30% of generative AI initiatives will be totally abandoned after proof of concept by the end of 2025. And that's largely in part to lack of data governance, lack of data controls, data that they can't trust, or data that's sprawled or maybe stuck within some type of mainframe or legacy platform. Along with that, there's certainly risk involved with data that either is not governed or not controlled or trustable. That includes lack of controls and risk assessment within that data, which makes it a big challenge for organizations to modernize, and that can lead to rising costs. Or perhaps they didn't start off with a well-defined business case, right? Everything really in technology should be started and backed by a strong business case. That means that we understand the return on investment potential for it. We understand the total cost of ownership for the solution, and we know the value that it's going to bring back to the business. Along with that, quality data. Again, on the subject of governed and trustable data, generative AI needs quality data. And I know it's a bit hard to see here, but certainly data quality being the top case, security and privacy being another importance factor. The gauge here is about importance, along with data literacy and proficiency, are things that all contribute to a well-defined data analytics practice in which things can actually be done with that data. And you'll see, the tip of the iceberg saying a lot on what's actually driven. Data is the foundation of all that innovation that we would see within generative AI. We start to see the business value as the tip of that iceberg. Lots of different example cases you can think of. One that comes to mind that I participated in the past with building on Amazon Bedrock was customer service agents that would support, think of like your insurance explanation of benefits. At times, you can say, no, that's totally wrong. You get it through mail or email, and you need to unfortunately call somebody, right? And you hope and pray that the response time is going to be short. You don't even want to call. You don't necessarily want a chatbot, which a lot of the times, that's another form of generative AI in a lot of cases which they move towards, but there's challenges within getting the right data fast. So part of like a customer service agent being able to return the right data in a quick manner based on either using retrieval augmented generation, RAG, which means you're supplementing it with additional data sources to pull from that large language model. So just an example use case of where we would start to see value on the quantified data would be reduced time in which it takes an agent to return an answer, time in which someone is on a phone call dealing with the provider or the payer, and then also with that, reduced headcount, right? Generative AI needs to show that type of value there. And then again, base foundation being modern data foundations, governance, the people, process, and technology of what we see a lot. The people being able to support, and I'm not talking about necessarily prompt engineering, but the people that can help support the development of the product, the processes, the governing processes for secure and trustable data, and the cool and new and innovative tech to back that. In this case, we'll be talking through Amazon Bedrock, Amazon Q, which serves as in a few different capacities between Q Business and Q Developer, things like Q Agents, which make it easy and lower the barrier to entry to get in to experiment. Because really, the modern goal for any cloud provider is to drive consumption, right? What do we want to do? We want our customers to continue to drive experimentation using more services, and that's a great way to get that in there. It's a bit of an eye chart here on what what makes up a generative AI application, which we'll follow the path here. You'll see the large language model here at the top, but that's all backed by good and solid trustable data, right? We need to ingest that data at some type of cadence. Maybe it's event-driven architecture where it's driven by another event occurring. That data all needs to be in a supported format. Sometimes it goes to EDW or data warehouse or data lake or lake formation in which that data is transformed to be loaded either to be further processed in that data lake or so on. And then again, as things change within that data, change the data capture occurs, that generally placed back in the data lake. And then you'll see those data sources being fed into what I mentioned before, RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Services like Amazon Kendra can serve as a vector database to be used. OpenSearch along with that on AWS certainly can help and to be used as the data source, and then supplemented by any type of in-memory caching, Elasticache, so on and so forth, to be able to ensure that that generative AI application that is using essentially the foundational model being Bedrock and augmented by, we'll say, data sources in Amazon Kendra are quickly retrieved and processed and returned successfully. Again, I kind of mentioned some of these products and services here as part of what AWS has to offer, between data pipelines. So how do we extract, transform, and load that data? You see things like, everyone I think has love-hate relationship with Glue at sometimes, just based on if the data is poor, sometimes the crawlers don't work as well or, on the right, what your expectations might be. But again, lots of different services as far as containerization, things like AWS Fargate, both EKS and ECS being able to transform and use containers to process that data at a larger scale. And then ensuring that data quality is in place. You'll see things like Data Wrangler, portions of SageMaker within the certification, and then going into how do we govern that data, certainly elements of guardrails within Amazon Q and Bedrock to ensure that compliance is adhered to when it comes to the data that's being processed through Bedrock. And then as that model is used and involved, we need to monitor that, which we'll get into a bit as some of these questions as far as model monitoring. So based on all those services, what are our customers? What do internal organizations, say if I'm from an industry, what do I commonly see as far as challenges before getting to realized value within generative AI? We know it's scale, which I think I'd consider that maybe the third issue there, but I think performance and cost are the ones in either you didn't have a business case developed that was secure enough to show the true value of what the generative AI application was supposed to do versus the performance, which performance don't think of like typical telemetry within like a container running or something. We're looking at model performance on it being able to return the right answer on the first time back, and then being able to scale that across millions of users all at once. Think of a good example here because I was personally affected by it. I was at a customer site in Atlanta, Georgia, what now was about 2 months ago. And CrowdStrike outage occurred. And what happened? Well, Troy got stuck at Atlanta Airport. And I've wised up enough, and I've been stuck at JFK in the past. Similar situation, but not CrowdStrike affected. But I had to, before I realized I needed to get a car to get 4 wheels to get out of there, I called just like everyone else, and if I could put a picture up on screen, we're talking all the way, you look all the way down the airport, you see miles and miles of folks all lined up to talk to about 10 different Delta reps, right? It was insane. So I called, I waited in line, waited in phone queue. An automated IVR occurred, trying to process it would keep failing and failing and failing and failing. So that's what I interpreted certainly as one portion of a big failure on that part. But moral of the story is that I still got in the car and went drove all the way back to Detroit. It was about a 14-hour drive. But that doesn't necessarily tie back to that. But there could have been better handling of automated response from the aircraft, or from the airline, and being able to address and scale a bit more efficiently. And again, lots of folks suffered things that, like the application wasn't working. The mobile app was totally it was not functioning at all. So, certainly things in the back end that need to scale at a fast rate. So, how can we overcome these types of challenges? And I say that because we're going to work through a bit of some generative AI trivia as part of all these questions and the trivia that I have. I've sourced from different practice exams, a certification guide. So we'll go through some fun trivia to, and we'll certainly gamify this a bit. What I'll have everyone do is if you want to play along, which for the top 5 participants, we have Amazon gift cards to give out. So it's no burden in playing. Now, I think I can allow folks on the Discord call to play as well if they can see the screen. And if you're on the Discord call, if you're in the top 5, I'll reach out to you afterwards and ensure that you get your gift card. So no worries about that. Now, for folks here in the room, you may want to connect to the WCC Net Wi-Fi. Not because it's a peer-to-peer application, it's just because the cellular signal, at least with Verizon in here, is kind of like a Faraday cage. A bit wonky, if you will. So just want to make sure that you have a stable Wi-Fi connection. And in just a moment here, what I will do is get the QR code up, and we will start playing some. Yeah, it should have no password, WCCNet. Who wants to be an AI millionaire, I call this. And I had these grandiose ideas, and I tried here, folks. I truly did. And you'll see, once I get WebRTC functioning, I'll get it merged into the AWS samples code base. But as part of this, and which is why you may be able to see on the screen, you see one version of this. It actually uses Amazon Bedrock to either answer the question. So we'll have an option, maybe one or two of them. We'll ask it as well to see if it knows the answer, as well as the folks here in the room and on the call. But the other side of this was there is a AWS sample that allows for the use of Poly, Lex, Transcribe, and a few other features in which we were able to call a friend. But unfortunately, the Streamlit application is seg-faulting right now, so I can't get it to work properly on this Raspberry Pi I have back here. So we'll have to defer to the keyboard, but maybe we'll troubleshoot through it, and it'll be a little bit of fun as we look through it. All right, so is everyone connected? Whomever wants to play? Okay, cool. So let's kick into it. So you'll see, again, if you're not familiar with what it looked like in the past, it's just envision it as like this, okay? I think I'm somewhat of a creative person, but you know, each going up to $1 million, who wants to be a millionaire, right? All right, so let's kick in. So you should be able to scan that QR code here. I'm gonna give you guys a minute or two. Enter your name. No funny business. You can a little bit of funny business, just keep it appropriate. Again, as I joked earlier, my parents are on the Discord call, watching their son. Just kidding. We'll have 25 questions, 30 seconds a question. And again, I think some of these may, you know, a mix of bunch of varying skills on AI, but certainly it's speed when it comes to being able to react, read the question and prompt as quickly as possible, and hit that button. So just have your phone ready to participate. All right. Everyone connected? You know, you guys can talk. You know, you don't have to be silent, trust me. I'd rather you not be silent. I feel like I'm at work presenting to my sales teams. They just stare at me and they say, "What's next, Troy? That's great, but what else you got?" You know? Okay, cool. Everyone's connected. Joanne, Slido. Okay, so I'd say normally for $100, but we'll start this one off. Yeah, we'll say it for $100. This, again, the numbers don't necessarily matter. And let's go. Join the quiz. All right, so give me a second here. All right, so I think now, yep. I see Ebert. I see a good friend of mine. Happy to see that Mr. Ebert's here to join. Look at that. Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, you shouldn't need any of my Amazon gift cards. But that's all right. Even better. I'll give this a couple more minutes in the lobby, so make sure we get everyone in.
FYI, I think people watching YouTube are going to have like a 10-second delay.
Oh, 10-second delay?
I think it's just YouTube encoding in.
Okay. So, okay, that shouldn't be a problem then. Wow. For folks that are watching, oh, I didn't realize we were streaming to YouTube as well. Okay. Well, they couldn't. Sorry, folks on that side. We'll throw another one for them. Okay, it's been 5 seconds here. We'll kick it off. All right. So remember, 30 seconds, fastest response, and the most accurate, obviously, response. And let's go. All right, which of the following is the primary focus of generative AI, but not typically associated with the traditional machine learning? Primary focus. You'll see your counter come down here on 15 seconds. We'll have a couple of times where we show a leaderboard as well to really kick things up. All right. Creating new content, 78%, and that is correct for folks that got it. Creating new content is primary driver of what normally we see as part of generative AI, but not necessarily something on machine learning. Classifying existing data in prediction and regression and forecasting is much more on the ML side. Nice work. All right, this one's a bit lengthier. How would you differentiate between overfitting and underfitting in the context of machine learning? Thankfully, you should be able to see it on your, obviously, mobile device as well. This one's a tough one, especially if you're not from a data analytics background. Overfitting and underfitting are generally newer terms. Definitely something that I had to study for. All right. Ding, ding, ding. All right. 83% said overfitting occurs when a model performs well on the training data, but poorly on new, unseen data, while underfitting occurs when a model performs poorly on both the training data and new, unseen data. And that is correct for folks that got it. Great work. And before I proceed, a quick fun story is that, and some folks already, I think I may have told this too. So the AWS AI Practitioner beta exam, I was all geeked about it, studied, registered, and the day that I sat in my basement, I have a ritual for this. I tell my wife and our 12-year-old, go upstairs, Dad's got to take a test. So I pull out this white folding table. I'm in the middle of the basement, and if you're familiar with how Pearson does it, they don't want anything in front of you, like they almost want you in the sanitarium, almost, and you're looking around with like nothing in front of you to adhere to the policy. And what happened was, this is about a month back, I think now, we had some bad storms. I'm in Macomb Township, so the east side, and our power went out. And I was sitting down there alone with no power, and I was middle of the way through. And unfortunately, that disqualified me from this exam. So, and which is even more unfortunate, I tried to re-register, and you can only take the beta exam one time. So I can't even claim to fame that I've successfully passed it. However, folks that I've interacted with have done well on it. And even our partner solution architect that's assigned to us at Proficient, he got 100%, which I was actually pretty amazed by that, because the first half that I took it's certainly a challenge. So ones like these where it's underfitting, overfitting. Again, overfitting is does well on the training data, but poorly on any new or unseen data. Okay. Which AWS services can be used to implement responsible AI practices? Amazon SageMaker Clarify, Amazon Inspector, Amazon SageMaker Model Monitor, Amazon SageMaker Jumpstart, or AWS Audit Manager. I promise I won't read off all the questions, but and if you haven't used SageMaker Jumpstart, it's cool. I can tell you about a pickleball machine learning model that I built on Jumpstart, which was super cool. All right, so 75% said Amazon SageMaker Clarify. Another 75% said SageMaker Model Monitor, and those are correct. So some of those are, certainly newer services as part of the machine learning services that Amazon has to offer to ensure ethical, governed, and observability in your models as they're produced and ran. Nice work, folks. Which AWS service is primarily used for automating security assessments to improve the security and compliance of applications deployed on AWS and AI systems? I don't know if anyone else thinks of Inspector Gadget every time I see Amazon Inspector, but maybe it's just me. It's a 90s kid thing. All right, time's up. Da-da-da. Inspector Gadget is. Amazon Inspector is used for security assessments for the security and compliance of your applications deployed. Config is also a great option and choice, but that is more of the overlying services that are used, not necessarily within the actual service itself. So config trips up a lot of folks on that one, but that's more so on compliance within the AWS account and the services that you're using, not the service itself and within there on that. Which of the following strategies best aligns with the defense in-depth security approach for generative AI applications on AWS? All right, 3, 2, 1. Think like an onion. You know, security is an onion, has multiple layers, peel them back, and 100% agree that you don't want to bite into an onion unless it's a multiple layers of security protocol, I suppose. So yes, multiple layers of security measures, including input validation, access controls. We want to, if it's a chat bot, you want to validate the form field input. Maybe that's through regular expressions, evaluating what's going in, then also applying guardrails as part of the foundational model to ensure that folks are not abusing the input or trying to look for things like some type of SQL injection. I won't say a SQL injection, but they're looking for something that in which they could trigger something in the backend system, or maybe they're a bad actor and looking for things that are unsecured or insecure back there. All right, William Birkland, you are leading right now. William, are you in the room right now? Yep. Am I looking right at you?
Yeah.
Do you go by Bill or William?
What?
William, great. William's a good name. That's my dad's name. And no, he's not on Discord call. So I appreciate that. You're at the top of the board right now. And guess what? With 5 participants, folks, we're all going to be winners. So that'll be fun. Everyone wins a bit who have been participating. So let's continue on. Hopefully we're all having a little bit of fun and learning something here. Which AWS service offers pre-trained and customizable computer vision capabilities? If you haven't participated in a Deep Racer, it's super cool. Another fun way to learn AI and ML. Textract is another service favorite of mine. Use it for lots of different applications in healthcare. All right. Recognition. Yeah. So that's the primary computer vision service used. And let me tell you a little bit about recognition. So when I was using, as part of SageMaker Jumpstart, I was building, they call it PickleNet. It's a neural net model that someone trained. And if you're familiar with pickleball, everyone's playing it these days, but Proficient threw an event at a place called Chicken and Pickle in St. Louis, where they serve gourmet chicken and everyone plays pickleball. And the courts are beautiful. It's so much fun. And what I set up was a camera used that observed as people were playing pickleball. And I made my wife train with me a 2008 pickleball tournament. We labeled so much pickleball images as I split that out of the video. It was insane. But we used that to build this model to identify pickleball tracking, where the ball was tracking, and we were able to start building some statistics as the players were playing. Super cool. Was able to reuse an ML model that someone built for tennis. You know, tennis and pickleball is similar, but not necessarily the same. But it's some cool applied use of recognition for within there. And I used ground truth and some other things for labeling of those images so we could use it as part of a machine learning model. All right. Which AWS services are specifically designed to aid in monitoring machine learning models and incorporating human review processes? Human in the loop. Human in the loop. Ground truth I just mentioned. A2I, Amazon Augmented AI is a newer one. Three seconds. Feel like this one might trip some folks up. Yep, I kind of figured. Data Wrangler is super cool, but unfortunately not as part of the data ops and what we would be looking for within this one. Our answer is certainly A2I, so Amazon Augmented AI and Model Monitor. Think of model, so again, when you human in the loop and reviewing, think of monitoring, think of observability. That would fall under Model Monitor. Ground truth we would be using for if we're labeling data, so wouldn't be that one there. Data Wrangler, as I mentioned, more so on data ops and more of the machine learning side of it. Which Amazon SageMaker feature or utility provides information on the assumptions made while developing an ML model? SageMaker Canvas, another cool, newer ML service from AWS, allowing for much easy, again, lowering the barrier to entry for experimentation, very much part of that. Right, this one tricked me up a couple times. I had to really remember it. I don't know why I keep thinking of Pokemon cards, but model cards. So we're actually writing and providing the feedback on how the model performance occurs, what features are being built into that model. That's how you're tracking and storing those types of things. SageMaker clarify more so on what it's already seen and reporting back on that. So unfortunately not clarify within there. All right, traffic monitoring application needs to detect license plate numbers for the vehicles that pass a certain location from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. every day. Which ML-powered AWS service is the right fit for this requirement? Again, we kind of talked through computer vision in the past, although SageMaker image classification algorithm seems a little bit deeper. Although TextRact, license plates, those are numbers, but where are we getting to before that? All right. Recognition, again, computer vision very much within here. Again, hopefully the government or local authorities using this in a ethical way for ensuring, maybe just counting traffic flow. Considering a scenario where a fully managed AWS service needs to be used for automating the extraction of insights from legal briefs, such as contracts and court records, what do you, as a solution architect within your organization, recommend? Right. This is a close match between comprehend and transcribe. Now, again, it needs to extract that information first before it is actually processing that information in which transcribe. These two services may be used in conjunction. Amazon Translate, not so much unless that data is actually need to be translated to another language. Recognition, not necessarily using computer vision that way, but certainly comprehend, being able to use things like OCR to process those types of materials. All right. William, you're still on top. Quick gunslinger. There you go. There you go. Yeah, so this is pretty closely, we're all neck and neck here, so which is great. All right, let's keep moving on. Which of the following is correct regarding the techniques used to improve the performance of a foundational model? This one's probably one of the toughest ones on here, I think. Sometimes I have to hold back, and it's not like when you're working on your son or daughter's homework and you're like, kind of give them a hint, you always give a little hint. I say like lifting weights, right? Weights are certainly used within machine learning models. So fine tuning changes the weights of the foundational model, where retrieval augmented generation does not change the weights of the FM foundational model. Again, that one can be tough. Weights and how that affects the ML model. Certainly an area to focus on if you're not familiar or haven't, fine-tuned foundational models, which I'd like to say a lot of us haven't. So something to know. is part of preparing for this certification. Which of the following techniques is used by foundational models to create labels from input data? And again, I did give a story about my wife saying, I am so tired of looking at this pickleball crap. When is this ever going to end? Says soon. I'm leaving tomorrow for St. Louis to go get this demonstration. So we're almost there. Just one last run. You need to crank up the epochs a little bit more to get the right information. All right. Is it supervised learning or is it reinforcement learning? In this case, self-supervised learning, when the foundational models are used to create labels from that input data. Again, not always the easiest thing. Which of the following is correct regarding foundational models in the context of generative AI? Again, as a test taker, I've done plenty of them with AWS. Always like to pick out certain pieces of a response, see if you can levy that or use that in another question. Certainly helps, especially if you're sure on one question, you're not sure on another. That's an easy way to find out. And we have a few different mixed responses here. It looks like we're all over the place, which I don't blame us. Foundational models use unlabeled training data for self-supervised learning, rather. Unlike supervised learning for labeled or unlabeled data. Which of the following represents the capabilities of Amazon Q developer? And I've asked Amazon and AWS folks, is Q like the Q from James Bond? And then they said, legally, we can't discuss that. So I like to think of it as Q being a technology expert in the James Bond series. Maybe it's kind of the same, but I think the real Q is a bit cooler than that. Now, remember, this is Q developer. So again, with some of these, you could prove your case. And again, provide feedback, especially if you're going to take the beta exam with the time remaining that's it's available. Provide that feedback to say, hey, no, that's not right. Because in theory, maybe not Q developer, but if you have an agent that's running, maybe you could use it to understand your cloud infrastructure a bit closer. But the purposes of Q developer in this case is more so on getting answers to AWS account specific cost related questions and understanding it and managing your cloud infrastructure. So again, there's a few different flavors of Amazon Q, all for different purposes, Q business, Q developer. Now we're seeing more so on Q developer being used within continuous integration, continuous deployment pipelines, doing some pretty cool stuff with transformative Gen AI assisted product development. Like help me rewrite all my antiquated .NET workloads that are in .NET Core or something into a newer version, or help us get that into a position where we can start moving these to things like Linux or some type of microservices. All right. Well, you're still on top, and with I think that's 3 minutes and 16 seconds on the total response time. So very impressive. About 45 seconds ahead of the other one. So we're doing good. We're moving along here. 15 questions down out of 25. What is the primary distinction between discriminative models and generative models in the context of generative AI? This one takes a little bit of reading and understanding. Right. Looks like a majority of us got this right. So generative models focus on generating new data from learned patterns, where discriminative models classify data by distinguishing between different classes. Again, that's grouping them and obviously discriminating between what types of data are which based on those classifications. Which of the following represents the best fit use cases for utilizing retrieval augmented generation, RAG, in Amazon Bedrock. Although medical queries scares me based on folks already asking their licensed healthcare practitioner crazy stuff already. So I think that one, ethically, medical chatbots has always been, at least when we see our customers, we need to approach that, tread lightly on that one. A lot of risk involved with it. But certainly, RAG is still very much used, because how do you get it to answer medical inquiries correctly? You got to feed it a ton of data, and that either scholarly articles, research papers, things of that nature, to be able to answer that correctly. I like to think of it as, how is it doing the grunt work, more so on explanation of benefits? Like, for example, open enrollment is coming up, and I always prefer build me a plan based on my needs. Tick, tick, tick. Yes, I need this. Yes, we have a 12-year-old. He may need glasses. Sure. Natural language, that'd be better. I don't want to have to go through 3,000 pages of benefits information. Then it recommends 3 of the best plans based on the information provided. That's a much more applicable use case within those. All right. What is the key difference in feature engineering tasks for structured data compared to unstructured data in the context of machine learning? This is where I would normally use the call a friend feature if it wasn't broken right now. There we go. Feature engineering for structured data often involves, skip so I can see the answer, often involves tasks such as normalization and handling missing values, so like gaps in data, while for unstructured data it involves tasks such as tokenization, vectorization, those types of elements. Don't ask me too much about tokenization, vectorization. I think I would probably need to call a friend on that one, help explain that a bit further. A company is using a large language model on Amazon Bedrock, we'll say Cloud 3, and wants to regulate the creativity of the model's output. What are the following inference parameters would you recommend for the given use case? Temperature, top P, top K, stop sequences. Right. Yes, the temperature has been about 80 degrees in Michigan the past couple of weeks. So temperature is correct. That is the metric and parameter that you would need to adjust when adjusting for inference on those large language models. Right. What is one of the primary challenges in machine learning implementation? I like to add a strong business case on here, or funding, or maybe if you go back to where we started, say, remember that iceberg, and think of what deep into the water is shooting that iceberg all the way up there. We know that it is good. Glad to hear it. Quality data for training models. Garbage in, garbage out. Very much applicable to this. Think about all the organizations that struggle to keep their data clean and have a steward and maintain over the years. All right. So we are at, William, you're still on top. Nice work. Let's see where we're at. We have about 10 more questions left, and looks like we're on time for questions as well. So what is feature engineering in the context of machine learning? I won't read these off. Things like tuning hyperparameters, collection of raw data. What are we doing with feature engineering? It's kind of all the boring stuff. Maybe not. Maybe more so on reconciliation, data filling, reconciliation. Nice work, folks. It looks like a majority of us got it right. So that involves selecting, modifying, filling in the gaps, creating features from raw data to improve the performance. So a continuous process, much like what we see in development, continuous integration, continuous feedback to enhance that model. You'll see that within ML ops, some machine learning operations, very much in the same pipeline patterns. Which of the following are the advantages of cloud computing? I always love these questions on these type of foundational or specialty. Because I'm like, yes, this is what I know. These are the easy ones. Easy is subjective, but are we going global in minutes? Are we spending money on building and maintaining data centers? Are we allocating a few months of planning for infrastructure capacity needs? Remember the advantages of cloud computing. Why did we trade CapEx for OpEx? These are the reasons why. Kind of gave it away on that one too. Trade capital expense for variable expense. So certainly we're moving from buying hundreds of millions of dollars of pure storage, Dell component. I don't even think it's Ecologic. Some old stuff now I'm thinking. Cisco hardware. We're going more so towards variable expenses in which is no longer big procurement of hardware. Benefits from massive economies of scale. So certainly AWS, when you see them load up or start to build out a new data center, you know that things are already in place and you're not spending to get those things in place in time. And then the last one being going global in minutes and deploying applications. Certainly, with the magic of infrastructure as code, you can deploy to multiple regions in a quick fashion. Again, you're dependent on your code patterns and how quickly your provisioner is deploying, or maybe if you're plagued with some things like CloudFormation, but hey, it's come a long way over the years, so I can't really speak poorly on it. And I'm a big AWS CDK fan. But anyways, which of the following AWS services are regional in scope? This can trick a lot of folks up. Web application firewall. You generally see web application firewall paired with things like Amazon CloudFront, so CDN, API gateway, any public-facing entity within AWS that you need to secure. Recognition, being that computer vision services, CloudFront, CDN, one of my favorite. Service on all. Right. Recognition and Lambda. I feel like a lot of folks think that, or a common misconception is that Lambda being global, but that is region specific, and that's where you'll see when you're trying to bring processing in-house within a hybrid environment. Generally, you'll see an association with like a VPC. So that requires an ENI, Elastic Network Interface, to be associated with a VPC. So that's, again, a VPC is a regional construct. Think of it that way. Recognition also bound by region, and not necessarily all of the regions have services like recognition available. When a generative AI model makes something up that may sound plausible and factual, but may not be correct, what is that called? That's what I call it. When something screws up, what do I call it? Yeah, that's a new feature. It was on the roadmap. You just didn't review the roadmap. Fairness, hallucination, controllability, explainability. No, I'm not talking about that fun time in high school. Answer being hallucination. 88% got it right. Yeah, absolutely. When an ML model starts to hallucinate is when it still sounds plausible. It's just the data is now tainted and needs to be reran. Retail company needs a solution that allows for help in forecasting foot traffic, visitor counts, channel demand to efficiently manage the operating costs. Which AWS machine learning service is the right fit for this use case? Just got one more left after this. And the beta exam is a beta for a reason. You know why? Because if I could recall, I thought that forecast was on the EOL list when I looked at it, along with things like code commit, but I might be wrong. Do you know if forecast is going to be end of life? I thought I saw it on the list. I might be wrong because I just went back earlier today and I was like, is forecast? I thought I saw it on there, but it might have been another service that originated from Amazon that you can use on AWS, but I might be wrong on that. So the answer is forecast though. And it's been around for some time. certainly can be used as a pre-can method to determine on a retail store some, traffic, those types of things. It's prediction and forecasting.
Why would they send something?
I thought that I saw it on there, but in this case, I don't think they did. So.
You're hallucinating.
What's that? I'm right. My data is all screwed up. I'm trying to be convincing. That's part of the hallucination. You're absolutely right. Which of the following best describes Amazon SageMaker Canvas ML tool? So last question. Remember lowering the barrier to entry. Faster experimentation, faster feedback loops, the ability to test without having to build and deploy a ton of infrastructure to do so. God, we all remember, maybe some of us remember the days of needing either virtual machines provisioned. I guess that's even closer to today's date, but like having to rack gear to even, or, everything, every Oracle DB is on physical hardware. I don't know. Maybe those things that plagued me in the past in data center days. Gives the ability to use machine learning to generate predictions without the need to write any code. It's kind of like point and click. It's again, the trade-off in here, just like build versus buy is really the same trade-off, is there's generally going to be higher costs associated with those simple to use click ops, right? You're going to be paying for, in some way, shape, or form, the ability to make it easy to provision those. And again, I warn everyone that experimentation is absolutely fantastic, but don't forget your roots. Infrastructure is code. So like anytime I'm testing or deploying anything, I want to use IAC, I use AWS CDK, I write in Python. I want to be able to build and deploy and then destroy. Usually I try to set a reminder by the end of the night, it might be 2 a.m. when I'm done experimenting, go destroy that stack because otherwise I don't want to pay for it. Or maybe I'll set a reminder. But again, repeatable ways to experiment without leaving, I like to say leaving the lights on in your whole house, leaving all those resources running. Now, it may be small services, but when you start to get to things like running SageMaker ML instances, yeah, it can be quite costly. And things to think about is that you may need to plan for those accordingly. That may require you to have and request as part of service limits higher ML instances, larger ML instances. For example, back to pickleball, I had to go request a whole series of ML instances that were GPU backed to be able to process those in a faster way. Otherwise, I was going to be sitting there waiting for 15 days to get my model response, which I was trying to build it in like 10 hours. So we ran those costs up really quick. All right, folks, we got 5. William, Ebert, I won't reveal his first name. Brad, Sridhar, Scott, and congratulations, you guys are the winners. So,
Did I pass the exam?
You passed the exam. Woohoo! I'll print you out your certification on the way out. So come see me, Ebert rather. I will. I know where you live, so I'll make sure I get you a gift card here. Sridhar, is Sridhar on remote? Maybe. Well, I'll okay. Sridhar, I'll get in touch. I'm also in that Discord channel, so I will. I can align and find you. All right. Great work. Hardest question being, which of the following represents the capabilities of Amazon Q Developer? I don't know if I'd say that was the hard. I think maybe the one that we all spent the most time on. I'd say more on the inference, and some of the ones around feature engineering is much more difficult. Here, if this will. And congratulations, you win. This is all part of the template, right? Congratulations, you win. We're all a bit of a winner. $10 Amazon gift cards for those that participated. Great work, folks. Really appreciate you joining in on the fun. Let's connect. I think that's my link tree, which that's my GitHub, my LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter/X. I usually just post about women's sports or other cool stuff within AWS. But yeah, please, add me on LinkedIn if you haven't already. I'm on a whole bunch of those social channels and love to chat. So why don't I do this? Is there any questions, or maybe we can even open up for discussion? I'll grab the catch box. I think maybe if we want to pass on the room, the question would be: have you taken the AWS AI Practitioner exam? How did you feel about it? Maybe keep it brief. Pass or fail. Again, I told you I failed mine. I mean, again, God's will on that one, power went out, but I will be taking it again and again. And also I'm preparing for the data, I think it's the ML engineer. It's a specialty exam, data engineer, I think it is. It's tough. Again, when looking for resources, folks a lot of times ask, Troy, how do you prepare for an exam? I like to use, I think Stefan Merrick is great. He's on Udemy. He's some of the best. His content is some of the best. Along with, I think he runs, his name is Frank something. He runs Sundog something. You're probably familiar with it. Also, really well articulated, great content. And I found that those closely align with what I normally see on the exams. Along with build, like, again, I mentioned AWS samples, just failed. Here, let's ask it this. What is the best way to prepare for an exam? And there was a point in time where I had sound working for it. See, this is the sound effects I built in. I did learn a little bit of Streamlit during this. And Claude 3 mentions that, and again, this is going back to Bedrock, here's some effective tips. Start studying early. I don't love doing that. Don't tell me that first. Maybe it's hallucinating. Generally, I'm a procrastinator, and I will probably, that last week where I know the pressure's on, that's where I'll usually go study for it. But again, I'm doing a lot of these things every day. Building is important, like AWS samples in the GitHub repository. Use those. Go in there. They have specific ones that are aligned to the technology stack you're practicing on. So again, these are all Gen AI. Build and deploy them. Use Streamlit so you can really run them anywhere. Along with skillbuilder.aws, that's another, they're free resource. I haven't tried out the paid services by SkillBuilder, but I'd probably go to Udemy first and then probably like LinkedIn Learning last. I just haven't found the content to be there. Now, a friend of mine, Morgan Willis, she covers, and she's on Coursera. She's great. Now the material on Coursera is much better than I found on LinkedIn Learning. Maybe that might be my second one. They mentioned practice active recall and such, but these are all things to prepare anyway. So let me pass it around. Just a little bit of feedback on if you've taken it. How do you feel? Just keep it brief. Brad, what do you think? You don't have to talk talk into the. You don't have to scream into it.
I have taken the exam. I did pass. You mentioned Stefan Merrick.
Yeah.
He sent out an email in the last week or so.
Yep.
Calling out how difficult it was.
Yes. And
how many of the questions weren't in any of the AWS content.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, even the half that I took, it was difficult, and I was actually shocked that it was what they considered a foundational exam. Like, again, it's don't let anyone else's experience trifle yours. So, like, again, if you take it and you don't pass, that's okay. Again, you obviously have additional opportunities, unless it's a beta exam like me, where now I got to wait. But folks will always say a certification is easy, or I didn't study. Forget them. Everyone's learning path is different. Before that, let's see, I have about 9 certifications. I thought I was prepared for the AWS Certified Networking Specialty. That exam, holy smokes. I mean, I know like BGP, ASNs, OSPF, but regardless, it's things that if you're not doing it on a day-to-day basis, like unless you're like a network architect that works within cloud, it's a difficult exam. And like, again, that one in, I still think that some of the machine learning ones, data engineering ones are still some of the toughest ones, because again, if you're not doing it on a day-to-day basis, it's hard to recall that easily. So
yeah, I haven't taken the AI one yet, but I have done the machine learning specialty. Yeah. It reminded me of a lot of questions tonight. Like half of it is knowing your AWS services, and then half is fundamental machine learning concepts that you got to learn outside of doing AWS. So challenging in that regard.
Yeah, and it deters a lot of folks because there's some, I don't say mathematics concepts, or a lot of math concepts within machine learning. One in which, if you struggled with it in high school or college, then it might be a difficult exam. So just take the time, spend and prepare. And again, if you can find that, sometimes AWS will put out 50% off. I encourage everyone to do those. Seek your organization, see if they're helping to fund like discounts on vouchers. And then also there's free retakes that a lot of times they'll send out. Look for those. And if you're going to AWS reInvent, they give out a ton of vouchers for complimentary exams. I think if you take it at AWS reInvent, there's some incentive for that. I don't know. For me, AWS reInvent is, I'm working. So Proficient is sponsoring, but I'm working the booth the whole week. So like certifications is definitely not top of my mind. It's like, okay, I got to go out and support another customer at another dinner. You're just, by the time you're at the booth all day, you're pretty much whooped. So certifications isn't the top one. But if you're joining as a builder, as a student or anything, it's always worth looking for some of those certification opportunities. If you can take it in person, sometimes just like, again, you got to know the content, but sometimes the feeling of, being surrounded by other AWS builders can help propel your certification journey. So go ahead. Right.
Let's see. I have not taken the exam, but I was kind of curious about it. So I think this is interesting because I thought it was interesting is that it kind of, a lot of the SageMaker and machine learning seem almost like prerequisites.
Yeah.
Whereas some people are just kind of not hearing about AI for the first time, but like that's what piqued their interest more. So they're approaching it kind of without having jumped through a number of those hoops already.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that, again, with a beta exam, they'll probably make some changes. Generally, the beta exams are longer and the total amount of questions, 85 questions. They'll probably bring that down to maybe 65, 75 questions. And again, it being a foundational exam, they may take all the feedback and say, hey, we need to soften this a bit, to not have ML as such a heavy prereq, as you mentioned, because I from the portion I saw too, I found the same. And again, if I were to rank it, I don't think it has a lot of those scenario-based questions that you see in like certified DevOps professional, certified solution architect professional, which, I mean, you take one of these exams and you're pretty much mentally wasted afterwards because you've been sitting there reading every scenario-based question. It takes time. You have to, understand and comprehend each one. So they are timed, and I think they're like 2.5. You usually get pretty ample time, and there's never been a case where I'm like, oh shoot, I'm running out of time, because generally, again, your first guess is probably your best guess. I don't know. I'm always curious on others' techniques when taking these types of exams. Do you, and I can pass this around again, did you, maybe Brad, did you find yourself taking the time for, if you didn't know the answer to one of the questions, did you put it for review and go back? Or did you take the time and say, okay, I'm confident or fairly confident it's this one, and then commit and move on?
I always put questions for review.
Okay.
The very first time I actually changed some.
Okay.
And I'm sure the ones I changed, I got correct.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think especially for purposes of this exam and the scenario-based questions and being able to levy, we saw how many times the recognition or a lot of the same themes come up. So there's a lot of times in which you could take a question and levy it against each other, go back, flag it for you. Okay, now I know that this is actually the answer because this kind of went into depth on the other one. So yeah, I think that's a good, strong strategy in which I need to start doing that more. But that, I think for this exam, when I do have the opportunity to retake it, I think that will be certainly part of my strategy. So cool. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's time, input today, and coming coming and joining us here today at the Michigan AWS User Group. It's been an honor and privilege to be able to chat and kind of talk through what I saw as part of the certification journey. Maybe next time I'm here, I'll have a functioning demonstration. But hey, lights and sounds are kind of cool. That I can't tell you how much. You get away from like audio editing, and I was like, okay, first I need to find 53 minutes of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and the soundtrack is strange. It's almost like new age, new wave kind of soundtrack, and I had to splice it all up, learn in Streamlit how to load an audio sample, how to make sure it loops. But you know what? That's the beauty in the process is trying to build something and showing it off. Now, again, AWS samples, as part of the GitHub repository, has tons of I won't say tons of repos because it's a singular repo, tons of folders in which they go in depth on things that you can build and learn from, and things like Gen AI, ML. It's fantastic in that use case for those types of elements. So again, I appreciate it. Scan the QR code. Love to connect. I'm working professional services, but I'm always here, talk shop. Love to, solve problems, and, if they say, want to shoot the shit, then I'd love to chat. So appreciate everyone today. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.